Here is our tarot snapshot for Friday, July 3rd, 2026. Independence Day is tomorrow, the 250th birthday of the United States. Now let's talk about that. We certainly live in interesting times, and there's a quote from Mark Twain that I absolutely love. Patriotism is supporting your country all the time, and your government when it deserves it. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm not necessarily a hugely political person for a lot of reasons. I participate in local government, I participate in state and federal government, I vote, I live by my principles. But I want to say something about the United States and how happy and grateful I am to live in the United States. Why? As problematic as our current events are, as divisive as we've all found ourselves, I'm grateful for the United States because I am a gay psychic medium that has a storefront on a main street. And I'm able to be gay, I'm able to have a husband, and I'm able to do this bizarre and wonderful work for the world. And I don't have to worry about my government finding me and cutting my head off. I do want to speak to that because there are a lot of governments in a lot of countries in this world where I would be hunted down and killed. And again, I believe, like anything, we need to constantly hold ourselves to account, hold our government to account, hold our country to account. And I think Martin Luther King Jr. said the universe kind of always bends towards justice. I think that we're in this constant state and we have to be of refining our country so it's the best place to live for everybody that's a part of it. I'm going to try to remember this on April 15th when I file my taxes. Anyways, what I would like to do is I'd like to celebrate the United States and its 250th birthday. I want to do a tarot snapshot about us as Americans. I want to take a look at where we're all at collectively, where the country is. I want to take a look at what's challenging us all collectively, and I want to take a look at what can guide us. Now, one of the things that I like to bring up at my live events is this, and God forbid this ever happen, but let's say I'm in a group of 100, 150, 200 people, and I'm doing my thing, and a mad gunman walks in and starts firing away. God forbid that ever happen, but if it did, the people in the audience, everybody there, is not going to worry about if the person next to them voted for so-and-so or so-and-so. At the end of the day, we're all humans. And if you're watching this in the United States, we're all Americans. And I think we have to remember that we have so much more in common, and our vested interest is so much more commonly held than anything that divides us. I think the powers that be and the fear machine that is media, social media, and the sour negative parts of certain political parties want us divided. Remember that we have far more in common than we do different. Okay. The card that represents where we're all at right now is the Emperor. Each tarot card can have a positive or negative connotation. We've seen recently a lot of the No Kings rallies, and America was absolutely built on the foundation of getting away from kingship, monarchy. There's a lot to be said about this card in its positive aspects and in its negative aspects. I do my best not to challenge people's beliefs and the things that they hold dear. And I'm much more of a person that wants to reach across the aisle instead of push people away. So as much as I probably could speak negatively about the person who sits in the White House, I'm not going to do that. It doesn't really help. It doesn't make a difference. But we are all seeing what's going on in this country. A lot of people say the emperor has no clothes. There's a lot to be said about this. So I think it's fair to say that the person who sits in the White House is the most divisive person that has ever existed for the United States, the leader. At least within my lifetime. I don't know what Nixon did to the general populace of America because I wasn't alive then, but I know what's going on now. So that's the current state of affairs, right? Let's see what challenges us. Okay. I'm going to ask you to open up your mind and go for some big concepts here. So the Seven of Cups is a card of mystery and illusion. Now, a lot of people want to complain about the country. Yes, and perhaps that's necessary in the process of moving it forward to a better place. But right now, outside of our store, we have this event in Littleton, New Hampshire called First to Friday going on, and I was just out there. There's music, there's food, there's art, there's so many people wandering around. I cannot believe how grateful we are to be situated near something like this. And the music is phenomenal. It's wonderful to see the people dancing and enjoying. There are many countries in this world that doesn't happen. Okay. I've also sat in this place of seeing a lot of witches and spiritualists and occult folk sending bad mojo and curses to the person who is sitting on our throne, figuratively speaking. This card right here, what challenges us? Okay. To me, this card represents the thing you think is good for you is actually bad. The thing you think is bad for you is actually good. My example is coffee. Coffee is never good for me. Society would teach me it's a good thing. It's not. The thing I think is good, drinking it, ends up being a very bad thing for me. So that's kind of the Seven of Cups energy. For folks who are concerned and worried about the state of the United States, I would offer them this higher perspective that sometimes things have to break apart to be built up again in a better way. I think a lot of people supported the person who sits in the White House in our country because that person represented change of the status quo. The whole drain the swamp thing, right? America has been challenging to live in. I'm not sure if the American dream exists. It certainly doesn't exist like the boomer generation had it. College debt, mortgage rates, cost of living, on and on and on. And I think the people who backed this person were attracted to somebody who presented, Big Daddy energy, but also presented an opportunity for change. They weren't the status quo politician. Hopefully they were going to get in and drain that swamp. Now, that is a point of debate, yes. But the person that's sitting in the White House has done a lot to dismantle a lot. And I try to see it all from a higher perspective, that sometimes things need to be broken down before something better can be built. But seeing that perspective, just going bad man, bad things, I try to see things historically. And I try to see what's going on in the United States right now as a form of chemotherapy. Pardon me for saying, but chemotherapy is something so toxic that it shocks the system into balance. I'm hoping that all of the toxic energy of what's going on in the United States can shock us all into a state of balance. But let's take a look at the card that heals and reveals. That's our guidance. The devil. Boy, oh boy. All right, let's talk about Satan. Okay. From what I know, because I'm a student of world mythology and spirituality, Satan is not the devil. In the Bible, the word Satan, back in the day, and do your own research, the word Satan meant challenger, in the way that a political opponent could be a Satan to somebody, because they're a challenger. There's somebody who comes into their existence, comes into their sphere, challenges them. And I think that's what this card is. Now, this card in my reading here represents what heals and reveals. Lucifer is known as the light bringer. We can talk all about that and how that's been perverted and converted, all of that, but we're not. Essentially, this is a card of fear, but it's also a card of catalyst. See the fire in the tail? Okay. These chains around their necks are very loose and can be lifted up. Humans, we have to make sure that we are not driven by our animalistic nature, because we are half animal. Our animalistic nature will cause us to be very tribalistic. Those people are bad, these people are good. And we'll try to herd up, and now we have essentially two factions in the United States, the two-party system, which in its ideal form, right, the Democrats are supposed to challenge the Republicans to make it so that there's a compromise and there's this like grindstone effect between the two parties. I'm not sure that's there. I don't see very much what's called bipartisan efforts to make the United States better. This is very much entrenched on, people are entrenched in polarity. And one of the things that I've learned about polarity and being polarized, that if you exist in polarity, you create polarity. It's wild. So imagine that we're being challenged, and if you're a Republican or a conservative, you can think of the other party challenging you, being that Satan aspect, and you can certainly think as a Democrat or a progressive or liberal, the other party being that part that challenges and requires us to hopefully make something better out of the catalyst, out of that sort of chemical reaction. A lot of big concepts, but if you have a roof over your head, a lot of people don't. If you have food in your belly, a lot of people don't. If you have access to paper towels to clean up messes in your house, a lot of people don't. I just want you to remember how good you have it. I want you to celebrate the world you live in now, and celebrate the world you dream about, because both of those worlds are important. Try not to be guided by fear. And remember, legacy media, what you watch on TV, social media, that is the fear machine, because fear is addictive and they want you addicted. Clicks, ads, all of it. We do not live in the time of Walter Cronkite, or more appropriately for my generation, Peter Jennings. We don't live in a world where we're given the news and left to figure out how we feel about it. Every avenue of the news that we get handed to us is telling us how to feel about the news when it's delivered to us. Be mindful of those corporations and those entities out there that want to make you addicted to their platforms, all while driving a wedge between you and your neighbor. Try not to get caught up in the division machine. And remember that hopefully we're all working towards a better, actualized and realized version of the United States. Because I love my state of Vermont, and I love the country that Vermont's part of. But as a patriot, I will support my government when it deserves it. And I'll support my country all the time. Because that's you. So all my love to you. Remember that as you're celebrating the 4th of July. Because there is a lot to be thankful for. I'm thankful for you. And I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to bring this to you. All my love to you. Take care of yourself. Keep your chin up. It's America. What else are you going to do?